Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In this video I'll be covering the basics and a main strategy which can be used with Foltest and the Northern Realms. The idea of this strat is to use Foltest's main ability, which is to create a copy of any bronze unit, and win using that. So at the moment this strategy is somewhat popular and has many variations, but I'll be showing you my one today, which I think has probably the best chances, but you can also make your own variations to it. Also, I'll put a link in the description to a couple of decks which have influenced mine quite heavily and made this one quite strong. Since I've been playing this strategy, I've had quite a high win rate with this, since apart from a couple of cards, it can't be easily defeated. Now the main card, which is insanely OP and kind of hinders this strategy, is Philippa Earhart, which can reduce any unit on any row to 1. No matter what the quality. Now the reason this is the only card which can kind of stop us is because we'll be turning our cards gold, which means they're kind of untouchable to any weathers or any attacking cards. So enough of an introduction, let's jump right into the deck and explain my choices and my reasoning behind the picks. So about this deck, there's only 25 cards and I definitely recommend you try and keep it at that amount, because the main objective is to buff one or both of our poor infantries to the highest it can be. So to do that, the rest of our deck are obviously mainly based around buffing those cards. So you'll want cards like the Commander's Horn, Swallow Potions, any Thunderbolt Potions. I've got 3 Blue Stripe Scouts and 3 Kedwenny Siege supports, but like I say, those could definitely be changed with any units which obviously can buff more than those do. Bear in mind that if you do swap out the Siege support and the Blue Stripe Scouts, then you need to have more cards that will give you more to that unit, otherwise you're just going to be hindering yourself. So also in our deck, we're going to need 3 poor infantries to maximise the chances of us getting them when they get drawn. Also as well, you'll want to have 3 Adrenaline Rushes and possibly 3 Promotes. I have 2, but you can probably get away with having 3. So the idea of this strat is to buff the poor infantry as much as we can in round 1, use the adrenaline so that we can get it in round 2, use the leader's ability, and then promote that type of card, so then it's gold. So just to quickly go over the rest of the cards I also have, I have Geralt and Ciri, a prize-winning cow, Thorla, Stennis, and of course Priscilla. Now the reason I have Thalen and Stennis is so that we can get as many cards from our deck as possible and into our hand. However though, when you play Priscilla, keep in mind that the cards will get played onto the battlefield straight away and not into your hand. You'll mainly want to use her when you haven't got a promote card, but you've done all the other steps of this strategy. Also, the reasoning behind Geralt and Ciri is in case you ever go to round 3 and you ever need that deciding card which buffs it up. However, you can swap them out for different cards. Another card which you need in your deck is actually a Reaver Scout, since you can actually use the ability of it to create a copy of the Blue Stripe Scout or Kedwenny Siege support to then add more strength to that unit. A thing I should remind you about with the Northern Realms is that whenever you play a gold card, that unit also gets +2 added to its base strength, and that goes across all Northern Realm leaders. So going back to Geralt and Ciri, you should always end up winning round 1 and 2 unless you get the right cards, so these cards definitely should be used only as a fallback for that round 3. Finally, we also have a Lacerate just in case we ever come across the popular breeding strategy and want to do damage, or we just ever feel like doing 3 damage to 1 row on their side. Now, moving on to expansion about this deck. Like I said earlier, I would avoid it at all costs. Reason being is you want to keep your card count down, and with this strategy, the more you have, the worse you'll actually do. So that's the cards you need for this strat. It's a small deck, I do know, but it does the job. Now, let's explain the strat and actually show you some gameplay and how it's done. So the first round, this is where it all happens pretty much. You'll try and want to get your opponent to pass as soon as possible so that you have free reign and you can just win right there. If you have him, play Stennis as your first card so that you can try and persuade your enemy to actually play a big card and pass, but do try and avoid playing your poor infantries up until turn 2, 3 or 4. However, if you've got the perfect draw in your hand, just try and delay starting the strat as much as possible. So once they've passed or you have to start your strat, here's what you're going to want to do. So step 1 is to play your poor infantry, otherwise we won't actually be able to do this strategy. So once you've played them, you'll want to use your cards like the Blue Stripe Scouts and any Kedwenny Siege supports to do any small buffs to one of the infantry. And then once you've used all your small buffs, you want to go ahead and use any special cards that you have to increase their strength even more. Once you've used your special cards, you can then move on to actually using your Commander's Horn, which you want to leave until you've done every buff possible to increase it and double it. Once you've used all your card buffs but not your special buffs, you then want to use a Reaver Scout on a Blue Striped Scout or a Siege support to then add more strength to that one poor infantry unit. And then once you've used as many buffs as possible, you want to use Adrenaline Rush on the one which has the highest strength. Now, here's where you need to go slow and not mess up. So after using the Adrenaline Rush, you'll want to use Foltest ability on the one that you've just used the Adrenaline Rush on. So what's going to happen is you're going to dupe that infantry, which will then create another one of the same, which then can transfer onto round 2. But then, because the ability of the infantry is to make another copy of it, it'll actually create a copy with that Adrenaline Rush, which means you'll actually have 3 cards of the same type, of the same strength. And finally, once you've used all your buffs and you've done everything, you'll want to use Promote on the infantry to turn them into gold and to be untouchable. Well, when I say untouchable, I mean apart from with Philippa, but you get my point. And then once you're done, you should either have no cards in your hand, or you should have a couple left like Geralt or Ciri, which we could save for round 2 or 3. So once that's done, go ahead and pass the round, and you'll obviously win round 1, and then round 2 will now start. So moving on to round 2, you think that there isn't actually anything to do, but there is. So once round 2 starts, you shouldn't actually have to play any cards. Have a look at your opponent's deck and your cards and make a decision on if you should pass or you should play another card which might just, tip you over the edge if it looks like it's going to be a close game. So now, moving on to round 3, as I said previously, if it ever comes to this round, you've either done something very wrong or the enemy team's done something very right. The other thing I should mention about round 3 is that your opponent's either going to win by loads or it's going to come down to the luck of the draw of what you get from your deck and what they get from theirs. So there you go, that's the strategy. Now we'll move on to talking about how to actually defeat this. So the first thing which you should do, and what I think you should do if you ever play against a Foltest, is to not pass on round 1. Reason being is because if you pass on round 1, they've just already run and you may as well just forfeit or just give up because it's happened. But as of right now, Philippa Earhart is the only serious recommendation I can make for you to win. But a card that actually does some damage is the Cadwini support from the Northern Realms, because what that card can actually do is it can remove the gold effect from the infantries so that it turns them into silver, and then you could play a fog or you could just get rid of it. So that right now is all I have on how to actually defeat this strategy. It's kind of untouchable, but once you do get Philippa Earhart, it's kind of not as bad as it seems, trust me. I've nearly got enough to buy her, and then once I do, I feel like when I can actually, stop playing this strategy and, play the monsters, maybe. Who knows? So guys, that is how to play Foltest, and that's the best strat I think for him right now. If you watching have any improvements or any comments, please leave a comment down below so I can then reply and then update the information when appropriate. So yes, that was a quick guide for a quick strategy and hopefully for a quick win using Foltest. If you guys enjoyed this strategy, leave a like and subscribe for more Gwent guides. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.